lie to the world.
Motivated by hate, Muslim family run over in Canada. Police say a driver ran over a family in Ontario because they were Muslim, killing 4 people, including a teenage girl. Police in the Canadian province of Ontario says a driver intentionally struck a family because they were Muslim, killing 4 people and seriously injuring a 9-year-old boy in what has been denounced as an act of unspeakable hatred and Islamophobia. The victims, all members of the same family, were hit on Sunday evening while waiting to cross a street in the city of London, about 200 kilometers, 124 miles, southwest of Toronto, Canadian news outlets reported on Monday. Police said the victims were 2 women aged 77 and 44, a 46-year-old man and a 15-year-old girl. A 9-year-old boy was seriously injured and is recovering in hospital. This was an act of mass murder perpetuated against Muslims, London Mayor Red Holder said. It was rooted in unspeakable hatred. The attack was the worst against Canadian Muslims since a man gunned down 6 members of a Quebec City mosque in 2017. Holder said it was the worst mass murder his city had ever seen. Sunday's attack came amid rising concerns about Islamophobic attacks in provinces across Canada and widespread calls for authorities to tackle racism, hate-motivated violence, and the prevalence of far-right groups. A 20-year-old suspect identified as Nathaniel Veltman was arrested, police said in a statement. He was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Veltman was arrested in a mall parking lot without incident while wearing a body armor-type vest, police said. There is no evidence he had any accomplices. There is evidence that this was a planned, premeditated act, motivated by hate, Detective Superintendent Paul Waite of the London Police Department told reporters. We believe the victims were targeted because of their Islamic faith. Eyewitness Paige Martin told reporters a black truck blasted past her and ran a red light, and then she came upon the scene and saw chaos. First responders were running to help, a police officer was performing chest compressions on 1 person, and 3 other people were lying on the ground. A few dozen people stood on the sidewalk and several drivers got out of their cars to help. I can't get the sound of the screams out of my head, Martin said. Zahid Khan, a family friend, said the 3 generations among the dead were a grandmother, father, mother and teenage daughter. The family had immigrated from Pakistan 14 years ago and were dedicated, decent and generous members of the London Muslim Mosque, he said. They were just out for their walk that they would go out for every day, Khan said through tears near the site of the crash. A fundraising webpage said the father was a physiotherapist and cricket enthusiast and his wife was working on a PhD in civil engineering at Western University in London. Their daughter was finishing 9th grade, and the grandmother was a pillar of the family, the page said. The family said in a statement the public needs to stand against hate and Islamophobia. This young man who committed this act of terror was influenced by a group that he associated with, and the rest of the community must take a strong stand against this, from the highest levels in our government to every member of the community, it said. By late evening on Monday, a steady stream of mourners was seen arriving near the scene of the attack, dropping off flowers and saying prayers. One placard read, "When does it stop? Enough." A vigil has been organized at a local mosque on Tuesday night to remember the victims. London, which has about 400,000 residents, has a large Muslim community and Mayor Holder said Arabic is the 2nd most spoken language after English in the city. The teenage girl who was killed will be deeply missed by fellow students and staff at Oak Ridge Secondary School, the school said in a statement. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he was horrified by what he described as an act of hatred, and said his thoughts were with the victims' loved ones, including the young boy who survived. To the Muslim community in London and to Muslims across the country, know that we stand with you. Islamophobia has no place in any of our communities. This hate is insidious and despicable, and it must stop, Trudeau tweeted. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, a national advocacy group, said it was beyond horrified by the deadly attack. This is a terrorist attack on Canadian soil, and should be treated as such. We call on the government to prosecute the attacker to the fullest extent of the law, including considering terrorist charges, the group's CEO, Mustafa Farouk, said in a statement on Monday. This loss of a family, the loss of a child in our community because of Islamophobia, this is a sorrow that will run deep for a long time. But let that sorrow be the ground where we stand for justice, and stand for change. Statistics Canada said in March that police reported hate crimes targeting Muslims rose slightly to 181 incidents in 2019, the last year for which the data is available. That is up from 166 incidents the previous year. In recent months, Muslim women in the province of Alberta have been targeted in several incidents of verbal and physical abuse. In September, 58-year-old Mohammed Aslam Zaifiz was fatally stabbed outside a mosque in Toronto's West End where he worked as a caretaker. That spurred calls for authorities to take the threat of far-right violence more seriously and to investigate the attack as being hate-motivated. Ontario Premier Doug Ford also tweeted his condolences on Monday. Hate and Islamophobia have no place in Ontario. Justice must be served for the horrific act of hatred that took place in London, Ontario yesterday, he wrote. Harjit Sajjan, Canada's Minister of National Defence, said he was devastated to learn of the 4 Muslim Canadians killed in London, Ontario in a despicable Islamophobic attack. 3 generations of a family gone in an instant. This pervasive hatred is far too common in our country. We need to come together to end hatred in all its forms. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, NDP, also condemned the attack. They were murdered because of their faith, Singh wrote on Twitter. More than ever we must stand with our Muslim family, friends and neighbors against such vile hate.
IQRA TV. Light to the world.